The Auditor-General is currently giving a virtual progress report by the National Treasury on matters related to the finances of her office. Takani Maluleke has started speaking. Let's listen in.
On the journey towards performance and accountability is about ensuring that every role player does fulfill on their mandate. And so whether it's internal audit committees, the accounting officers, the mayors and the councils, the coordinating departments, parliaments, and other legislatures, all of those role players will be spending even more time with and ensuring that we are more deliberate in supporting them and enabling them to do their work so that they are more effective. We'll also build on the work we've done in the previous year, which was to conduct a stakeholder survey, a pretty broad one that gave us a very good sense of what the areas of improvement are. And we have crafted those, and our work over the next period will be about continuing to implement those initiatives. We'll also invest in building and leveraging even greater partnerships with other players in the ecosystem of accountability. From an enforcement point of view, the first 5 years, we focused on implementing the MI powers across all of our auditees. We focused on building our own capacity in-house to implement this new tool. And we also started to do some work. And we've learned a few things over time. We've learned on how to get MIs processed more effectively and efficiently within the system. We've learned how to highlight high-impact MIs and use those to drive the better conversations, the better impact within institutions. We've also learned how to collaborate even better with other public bodies, especially those that have got investigative powers and mandates, as well as those in law enforcement. So we'll continue to learn from what we've seen before and to improve on what we've done in the past. The honourable members can expect to see even greater resource protection, greater impact from the work that we do. I still hope we don't get to a COD, but it may well be that we get to that point. I've always said to anyone who cares to listen, the moment we issue a certificate of debt, it must highlight to everybody that everyone else in the ecosystem of accountability has actually failed. And so whilst we might want to celebrate that moment when we do issue a COD, for me, I'm not sure that it will be a moment worthy of celebration, because it will be a reminder of the systemic failure in different parts of the ecosystem of accountability. On sustainably, the effort will be about relooking at our funding plan. We do have a very good funding model, which has served us very well for a number of years. It is imperative that we continue to look at how to enhance it going forward. So that will enjoy some attention over the forthcoming period. In the meantime, we'll continue to optimize our efficiencies and our cost management. We'll also internally continue to look at our ethics management program, which, as you know, we measure the effectiveness of through the ethics rating that's done externally. We have set for ourselves a target of attaining and maintaining a AA rating. It's a rating we've had before. In terms of also within the internal environment, we'll continue to capacitate the office by skills development and training, so that we do have a base of professionals that is continually developing and continually improving its ability to respond to the audit quality issues, but also to our challenges and ambitions on influence as well as enforcement and insights as well. On audit quality, as you know, we had a slip in the 2024 performance year. Dealing with monitoring reviews on our quality, we will continue to focus on that and ensure that the quality of our files, but also the quality management processes within the office stabilizes. Our targets include, yes, the area of quality, which we've not changed for many years. It's a very high target, but we believe it remains appropriate. We've also set for ourselves a target around delivering audits on a timely basis. Again, this is a target we've kept for a long time. It is quite high, especially in an environment where submissions don't often happen on time, but worse still, we get poor quality submissions. However, we do believe that we've got to fulfill our own constitutional and legislative duty to audit and report on time. So we will continue to focus on improving the timeliness of our audits. In terms of the financial management aspect, we've set the surplus target, which is the same one you've seen before, as well as a target for cash availability, for cash safety, which is quite important in our realm. The area of ethics maturity is still at a AA, as you know, and of course the clean audit is an area that we dare not let slip. Internally focused as well, we have targets that we've set for ourselves in how we manage the people we have in the office. Without the members of Team AGSA being capacitated, being well, being enabled to do their work, we would not have the ability to fulfill our mandate. So this area of people management continues to enjoy tremendous attention internally. We worry about turnover of high performing employees because that's an important measure of the attractiveness of our office as an employer, the ability of the office to retain top talent and to also continue to favorably compete against our peers in both the private and public sectors. We also have set for ourselves a pretty high target in terms of the people that write and pass the qualifying exams set by the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. Again, that's a very good measure for how well we're doing in recruiting, but also training and supporting our young people to realize their own dreams and qualify as chartered accountants. And again, whether they stay in the office or not, we believe that it is a tremendous contribution to the profession, to the economy, but also to the lives of individuals. We have conducted a culture survey internally, and over time we'll continue to do a dipstick to see how well we're doing in improving on the culture within the office, so that over time it becomes the type of culture that we desire, one that is conducive to delivering on our mandate with people who are well supported, and people who behave in a way that we have all agreed is desirable. Our fifth goal deals with efficiently, and that's really about dealing with our digital transformation journey and making gains in that regard, leveraging the use of technology and realizing operational efficiencies as we go, and also improving our use of data and business analytics for the internal management aspects of the corporate, but also in terms of how we use data that's available to us through the audit process as we drive insight. Our primary focus over the forthcoming period will be on the audit software project. I'd like to come now to the budget, which the DAG will support me on in terms of dealing with the questions as they arise. But I think on a very high level, we've spent some time looking at the environment, and we have sought hard to find a balance between passing on audit fees that are fair, audit fee increases that are fair and are reflective of the cost of auditing, but also taking into account the fact that many of our auditees have suffered budget cuts. So it's about balancing all of those things all the time. We still got to make sure that we are efficient in how we run the office, that we are able still to also make the type of investments we must make, especially on technology, so that our office is able to deliver on its mandate today and going forward. Our budgets for the forthcoming period also incorporate an accrual or a provision for the significant cash outlay that will be associated with our investments in technologies. Our income statement, I think I'll just deal with the last column, which is the budget 25-26, which gives you a sense of where we will be relative to the budget for the 24-25 year, which we're already in. I'll point out that we aim to increase audit fees by a very small margin. If you see that we're moving from 5 billion to 5.5 billion in the year, much of it really being work done by ourselves, as against work being done by the contract work allocation process by the private firms to whom we allocate contract work. The gross profit margin, you'll see that it's pretty consistent from 2.1 billion 2025 to 2.2 billion 2025-26. And that's really because we've kept our markups pretty much the same. The other income relates to mostly to the interest income that we earn when we have cash in the bank. The overheads, you'll see that in 2025, it's at 2 billion and pretty much the same level in 2025-26. I want to draw your attention to the last line, which says appropriation for the Public Audit Act. That was the appropriation that we were getting from the National Treasury to support us in implementing the new powers that we had. In 2023-24, we got 44 million from them. We've not budgeted for any more money out of them over the forthcoming period. We remain in negotiations with the National Treasury on how they might support these new requirements in terms of implementing on our powers. Fortunately, over time, we've been able to demonstrate that not only are we able to look after the money in our hands, but importantly, there is value to be had by us implementing the MI process in terms of resource protection as well as other impacts. The capital expenditure program is largely in the area of computer software, as well as the leases where in terms of our offices where people are. I think I'd like to pause there, Honourable Chair, and get to the directive. Maybe I can take some guidance from you whether you would like to engage on this part of the submission at this stage, or if I can move on to the directive at this stage, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, AG. I think you can move on, and then we'll deal with all your presentations or everything then and engage on it. Okay,
great. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, for that guidance. In terms of the audit directive, we are consulting with the honourable members of SCOAG in line with the provisions of Section 13 of the Public Audit Act to give you a sense of the type of updates we aim to put into the audit directive. I will only finalize the directive after I have taken into account your comments and your input. This directive essentially sets the standards. It also sets out specifics on the frequency, the nature, and the scope of our audits. It's a directive that has remained quite stable for a number of years. There's very little changes we've made over time. The changes we want to make in this particular period relate to really giving some sense of how we will manage requests for real-time audits. The honourable members will recall that in the response to the COVID emergency, we were called upon to conduct real-time audits, which was the first ever set of real-time audits that the office had conducted. And we also learned alongside our international colleagues who conducted similar work. And then we had the floods in KZN and the Eastern Cape, and we were asked to conduct real-time audits in that space as well. The work that we did was of such relevance and of such use and value to many of our stakeholders that we have been receiving many more requests for real-time audits. So we thought it best to put in place some principles so that all of our stakeholders are well aware of, first of all, how we understand real-time audits, and make sure we all have a consistent definition of those, and also highlight what process we would follow in processing a particular request that's put to us for a real-time audit. We set out the type of criteria we would bring into our analysis of a particular request, and we also put in the directive a very firm statement that at the end of the day, it is the AG that must decide whether or not to accept or reject a request for a real-time audit. It's really just about giving clarity to all of our stakeholders on how we will manage those requests. The second area that we believe we wanted to change in the audit directive relates to us having designed and now implementing the multi-year audit plan, which is the overall strategic audit plan. It gives much greater predictability for our stakeholders and for our teams. It also allows even the auditors that conduct work on our behalf, especially those that have been appointed by the auditees themselves and are operating on the basis of Section 4.3 of the Public Audit Act. It gives them some sense of what we will expect as they conduct audits on our behalf. So we've included reference to the multi-year audit plan in the audit directive. We've also removed a section that was saying that we would be phasing in the implementation of MIs because now we've completed the phase in, so it's just prudent to take out the part that's no longer applicable. Those are the minor amendments we want to make to the audit directive, and I would like to then leave it to the committee to either pose questions, but also to consider what we are putting together as proposals for your consideration and input. Honourable Chair, that is the submission we wanted to make on the Blue Book, which is the strat plan and budget, but also on the audit directive. I'll hand back to you, Honourable Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, AG, and let me welcome the presentation and the information that you also presented to us on the audit directives and the changes there. Honourable members, I'm going to open the floor for questions and for engagement. Please raise your hands so that I can recognize you. Don't see any hands yet or hands on your gadgets. The AG referred to the a municipality that is celebrating a qualified audit opinion, and maybe colleagues would remember this, but in 2012 in Gauteng, there was also a municipality that celebrated a qualified audit opinion. They went so far as to print T-shirts to celebrate it, and they sent the Premier of Gauteng, who was at that stage Vula Mokunyane, T-shirt, and she said, I can't wear that. I can't even use this as pajamas. So just to also say that that has happened in the past, but it also highlights the fact that we have a lot of work to do to educate all stakeholders and everybody involved in the terminology, because if you don't understand it, you can also not really implement and practice and improve your audit outcomes and what is necessary to achieve that. I see a few hands. Let me start with Honourable Beasley and then Honourable Subrati. Honourable Beasley.
And thank you, Chair, and thank you to the AG and all the staff and honourable members. Yeah, I think it was a very great, excellent presentation, so thank you. So my first question is just in terms of the AG plays an important role in the eco cycle, and just a question to the AG, as Parliament breaks this week and we go on holiday, what message would the AG like to pass on to Parliament so that we can sit and reflect on over this period as how we can play our role in improving the whole accountability eco cycle? So what her thoughts that Parliament can do to raise their particular game. And then just in terms of the real-time audit, who can actually request that? And I'll just be interested to have feedback. Is there a specific body that can request a real-time audit, or does it have to actually be the client per se? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Beasley. Honourable Subrati. Muted.
All right, so that's a virtual sitting there by the Auditor-General, beg your pardon, that's where you're at. The Auditor-General giving a virtual progress report by the National Treasury on matters related to the finances and funding of their office. Part of what I think is important, worth mentioning there for you as the question and answer section of that session gets underway, is the editor speaking about an increase in requests for real-time audits, which I think is quite fascinating. So, typically what happens is that we go through a financial year, people spend the money, and thereafter the Auditor-General comes in to see if that money was spent correctly